I'm Bob Trask. Thank you and welcome. This is your weekly reset video. And today I'm really excited about the subject because today we're going to talk about releasing your creative heart. Releasing your creative heart. Boy, have I got some good news for you. Have I got some good news for you? We've spent most of our lives being little kids, acting like adults. Being little kids, but acting like adults because we have to be right and we have to be proper and we have to have the certain clothes on and certain expression and we have to address people in a certain way and we have to show up in a certain way. Remember when you were a little kid? Maybe you don't. Maybe that was so long ago. You don't remember being a little kid. Well, I want to tell you something. If you cut a big tree down, like a 200-year-old tree, don't cut a 200-year-old tree down, please. Don't do it. Let that 200-year-old tree live. But if you cut a 200-year-old tree down, you cut it down, and then you can count the rings, and each ring is a year, and you go into the center, 200 rings, go into the center. See that little center ring? See that little center core? That's the sapling. That's the sapling. It's still there. That's the little sapling that was shooting up from the ground with its little leaves on it. Little sweet sapling. Little bunny rabbits came by and maybe nibbled off a leaf, and it grew and it grew, and it became a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger tree, and it put on layers and layers and layers and layers, and it withstood the storms and the wind and the lightning and the fires, and it withstood everything, and it got bigger and bigger. And it's you and me. That's you and me. We got bigger and bigger. We got stronger and stronger. We got more and more mature. We got wiser and wiser, didn't we? Didn't we? Didn't we? Oh, we are so wise. We are so wise. We are so smart. We are so intellectual. We are so on top of our game. And some of us feel like we missed the boat. Like the society went on ahead with us with their technology and all of their rules, and they went on ahead, and we just kind of got left behind because we just kind of didn't get it. And so we're all over the place on this. But the fact of it is that we are the human family, and we all have had our heartaches and our heartbreaks. And we've all been disappointed, and we've all felt lost and alone and misunderstood. And we've all felt that somehow we weren't enough. We all have all felt that we weren't quite enough. We didn't quite add up. And boy, junior high school was the worst, right? Oh my God. Junior high school was the worst. And that's when a lot of us learned that we weren't enough. When the in crowd told us that we weren't enough. And here, incidentally, if you could go back right now and find the in crowd, you'd find that they are nothing. They didn't do any better than anybody else. A lot of times they did worse because they weren't team players. They were game players, but they weren't team players. And the team players went on to win in life. Anyway, I'm getting off track. We're talking today about releasing your creative heart. And your creative heart is that little sapling. That's your heart. That's inside of you now. And if you don't pay attention to that, then the rest of your life, I can promise you, maybe I should say I warn you, the rest of your life will be unfulfilled. It will. You need to wake up. The child inside of you. And I hear in my field, I hear everybody talking about your inner child. You find your divine child and honor your inner child. I don't know if they know what the hell they're talking about. I'm talking about be your kid. Be the kid. Oh, yeah, I know we have to wear certain clothes, and I know we have to address each other in a certain way and get on and off the bus in a certain way. I know that. We have to do all of those adult things, but that doesn't mean we have to be adults. You can be a goof, dare to be a goof, because inside of that goofiness is your creative heart. And my dear heart, if you're not creating, if you're not creating, you're not doing what you came here to do. A racehorse is bred to race. Beautiful. God, they're such beautiful animals. Long legs, powerful haunches, great wind, great lungs. They're imagine hooking a racehorse to a plow. That's what you've done with yourself in many ways. I know that because that's what I've done with myself. That's the society we grow up in. We're taught. We're taught, and one of the main things we're taught that kills our creativity is we're taught to be wrong. See, I don't know if when you were a little tiny kid, we were told to be wrong. No, that's wrong. Don't do it that way. Don't, that's wrong. You're wrong when you do it. When the words you're wrong, you are wrong. That's like identification, like you are girl, you are boy, you are wrong. It's an identification. And you get that identification. And then you fight like hell to not be wrong. And I fought like hell not to be wrong. We try to do everything in our power to keep from being wrong because we don't want that identity, because that identity is helpless. It's weak. It's an insidious identity that has no feet under it. When you're wrong, you're powerless. So we don't want to be wrong. So we do everything we can to be right. But what turns out to be right isn't what's correct. It's what society wants us to be. Society wants us to be a certain way. You must pronounce words in a certain way. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. You must say things in a certain way. You must walk in a certain way. You must talk in a certain way. And when you sit at the table, you must eat in a certain way with your hands in a certain position on the silverware. And in Europe and in England, you can have the fork upside down and put it in your mouth. But in America, it's got to be between your fingers and thumb. It's got to be like this and go into it's how society wants you to be. And yeah, let's comply with society's rules. Let's not be awkward. Let's not insult other people by looking like a goofball. Let's remember inside that we are goofballs. Just remember that we are. Quit trying to pretend you're something different. You're not something different. You're a goofy kid. And all the rest of that is pretense. It's all makeup. There was a girl in Pakistan, teenage girl, and she was going to school. She was trying to go to school, but the Taliban, the Muslim Taliban was saying, no, girls don't get education. And she said, well, I'm curious and I want to learn. I know other girls are curious and want to learn. So we're going to go get an education. So they said, no, you can't. So she started fighting back and she started organizing protests and putting out flyers and et cetera. And she was just full of herself. See, she was being a goofy kid. She was doing what she wanted to do, not what society told her to do. And the Taliban kept telling her, don't do that. And she just kept doing it. So they shot her. They shot her in the head. Unfortunately, fortunately, the guy was a bad shot. And she was severely injured, but she lived and she had no brain damage. And when she got out of the hospital, she went right back to doing what she did before. She went right back to doing that. And I have a quote by her. She said, your dreams may seem impossible, but your creativity, she's talking about that childlike goofiness, Your creativity can turn them into reality. Your dreams may seem impossible. I'll bet right now they do. If you dare to dream, I mean, do you even dare to dream? Do you even dare to imagine something really wonderful in your life? Do you even dare to? You don't want to have any more disappointment, right? You don't want to have any more heartbreak. So don't dare to imagine that, right? Give up. Quit putting on new layers of splendid growth on the tree of your life. Quit putting on new experiences. Just stop because you don't want to be disappointed again or hurt again. Just stop. And then the tree begins to decay. Then you begin to decay. We got to keep going forward or we're going backward. There is no place in between. We can't just be couch potatoes. We've got to keep moving, baby. So, Malala Yousafzai, your dreams may seem impossible, but your creativity, that's an action word. That's not a staid word. It's an action word. Your creativity can turn them into reality. And regarding the kid that got hammered, Ursula Le Guin said, the creative adult is the child who survived. Do you have the courage to let that child survive today? It takes courage. Got to be willing to be wrong. Got to be willing to fail. Got to be willing to be a goof. Can't wonder about what other people are thinking about you, because what they're thinking about you is none of your business. You got to be willing to go for it. Pablo Picasso said, everything you can imagine is real. So if you imagine that you're a failure, you're a failure. If you imagine that you're helpless, you're helpless. If you imagine that you can do it, you can do it. Dare you imagine? If you can imagine that something wonderful can happen to you today. Not something huge, not something incredible, but something good can happen to you today. What would that be? What would that be? Would it be a phone call? Would it be meeting someone? Would it be going to the park? Would it be going to a movie? Would it be going to get an ice cream cone? What would that something be? Imagine it. And let that goofy kid take you there. Imagine it. Henry Ford said, and he's talking about your self-doubts here. The same those old self-doubts that hold us back. He said, only psychopaths, politicians, and other lunatics exhibit total self-confidence. Now, I don't know about you, but I can think of a certain politician who's a lunatic and exhibits self-confidence. The rest of us have self-doubts. It's what makes us reasonable, cautious people. However, you should never allow your self-doubts to stop you from trying to do something that you desperately want to do. You should never allow your self-doubts to stop you from doing something that you desperately want to do. He said, because whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Maya Angelou, she's talking about people who say, yeah, I've done my life. You know what? I've done my life. I'm retired now. God, I spent a lot of years in doing my work. I did a lot. Talk about creativity. Yeah, I did a lot of creativity. Created a lot of stuff, but I'm retired now and I'm just kind of playing golf or watching television or sitting around and putting on pounds and, but I've pretty much done that. Maya Angelou said, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So don't wait. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for something magic to happen that your life will suddenly be all excited. Make it excited. You are a creator. Up until now, there have been 100 billion people on the planet. Up until now, 100 billion. You know how many that is? There's 8 billion of us now. It's 100 billion so far. How many trillions will there be by the time the human race moves away? And there's only one you. Only you have that fingerprint. You're the only one with these eye prints, with this neuron print, with your voice print. You're the only one. You're the only one that ever has or ever will live. And you didn't come into this existence unique and singular and different just so you could do nothing. You came in with something to do. Now, Mary and I work jigsaw puzzles. We get a puzzle laid out on the table, and it's got maybe 500 or 1,500 pieces, and they're all different. Every one of them's different, all different. And the idea is to find one and fit it where it goes. You are a unique and individual jigsaw puzzle piece in this human family, in this universe, in this existence. And the only way you can find where you fit and stop floundering is to follow your bliss, is to follow your creativity. And then that will lead you to eventually fitting in, and you'll say, I'm home. I'm home. I'm back where I belong. This feels so good. And if your life right now doesn't feel good, it's because you're not being creative. So I ask you to go back and be that goofy kid. Henry Matisse said, don't wait for inspiration before you act. Inspiration comes while you're working. If you need inspiration, then get to work. Do something. Sit at a table and take a piece of paper and a pencil and just make some marks as a little kid. Not as an adult, I must paint a certain picture. No, as be a goofy little kid. Just do whatever you want. Make a circle and put dots in it, make an eye. Just let the kid out to play. Let the kid out to play. The kids play. Kids play. If they're not playing, they're dying. That's how your kids started dying, is you stopped playing. Just start playing. Relax. Be goofy. Be crazy. A great writer, woman writer, whose name I unfortunately forgot, wrote a book called On Writing. And in that book somewhere, she said, just go to the typewriter, that was back before computers, and just throw up. Just throw up. What she's saying is just stop editing yourself. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Let me finish today's talks with words about a river we know as life, as grace, as love. It's the river that's flowing through us right now. And some of us have dammed it up. And some of us have polluted it. And it's beautiful, clear, clean river of childhood, of joy, of life, flowing through us right now. Now, this is from Clarissa Pinkola Estes, is the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. Author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. She's got some information for you right here, right now. I got it earlier because it was for me too. Be wild. That's how to clear the river. The river does not flow polluted. We manage that. The river does not dry up. We block that. If we want to allow its freedom, we have to allow our ideational, creative free ideational lives to be let loose, to stream, letting anything come, initially censoring nothing. That is creative life. It's made up of divine paradox. To create, one must be willing. She's going to say this now. Listen to this. She's going to set you free. To be creative, one must be willing to be stone stupid, to sit upon a throne on top of a jackass and spill rubies from one's mouth. Then the river will flow. Then the river will flow. Then we can stand in the stream of it raining down. Thank you, Piccola. Piccola is telling us that we're free, but we have to be willing to just stop pretending. Be you. Be you. And you can't do that unless you're creating. So create something. Bake a cake. Do something. Get your energies moving. Find that little sapling that you are and be willing to be a little sap. Be a goof. Just be a goof. Let me say that these weekly reset videos are touching and uplifting lots and lots of lives. And I'd appreciate it if you would help me in that regard. Help me expand this work. I want to reach hundreds of thousands of people. Help me if you will. Go to bobtrask.com, bobtrask.com. Hit the donate button and leave a donation. Thanks. I appreciate that. Now, I send you forward into this week, and I dare you, between now and next week when we come back together, I dare you to change your life by becoming a little kid again, becoming honest with yourself again, being true to yourself again, and being a creator. I'll see you next week.